I knew something was off the second I walked in and the office went quiet. Not the usual, we're pretending to work, quiet. I'm talking predator in the trees quiet, like they'd all just done something and were waiting to see if I'd notice. And oh, I noticed. Right there, front and center, taped to my monitor in red Sharpie so thick it bled through the page. Loser. All caps. Smiley face underneath, smug little circle eyes, and a tongue sticking out like a toddler drew it with rage. And behind me? Chuckles. Not even subtle ones. Ryan from Dev slapped Brad's shoulder and muttered, "Dude, she hasn't seen it yet." Like I wasn't standing right there, keys still in hand. My manager, God help me, Carter, looked up from his standing desk like this was some kind of improv show. "You gotta learn to laugh at yourself, Jess," he said, that dopey HR-proof smile plastered on his face. "It's just a little fun." Right. Just like how the last fun involved them swapping out my desktop background with a stock photo of a woman drowning in spreadsheets while someone photoshopped my head onto it. Just like how my coffee mug vanished and reappeared weeks later with compliance cop etched into it with a soldering iron. Just like how I've worked here 6 years, pulled triple audit duties, flagged over a dozen vendor irregularities, and still never got anything more than a $25 Panera gift card and a smirk. Just like that. Hilarious. Before we go on, do me one favor. If you're listening to this and you've ever sat through a story thinking, "Damn, that could have been me," or you've worked in a place where people mistake silence for weakness, take 2 seconds. Hit subscribe, like the video. It means the world to the team, and yeah, maybe it helps make sure stories like this don't stay buried under ping pong tables and free beer Fridays. Anyway, I didn't say a word. Just peeled the paper off the monitor, folded it like it was a receipt from hell, and slipped it into my purse. Sat down, logged in. My hands didn't even shake. That scared them more than if I'd screamed. What they didn't know, what none of them had ever cared enough to see, is that I'd already started writing their eulogy months ago. Not in a dramatic, I'll get you all kind of way. Just quiet, methodical observation. See, I'm a compliance analyst. That's not just a title, it's a habit. I don't just notice things, I track them. Patterns, anomalies, sloppy cover-ups. Like how Carter approved reimbursements for dinners labeled client meeting at restaurants that don't even have a private dining section. Or how our DEI report claimed we had a 45% female leadership team, while I could count every woman in a managerial role on one hand and still have fingers left to flip them off. Then there was the onboarding fraud. New hires being fast-tracked through background checks, until one strategic consultant accidentally forwarded me an email where he asked if his DUI would be a problem for HR optics. Spoiler, it wasn't. I flagged it. No response, I flagged it again, got told I was slowing down the process. So I stopped flagging it. Officially. Instead, I started encrypting, built myself a little fortress of files, time-stamped, categorized, annotated, payroll anomalies, whistleblower retaliation, vendor kickbacks, Carter's quiet edits to audit logs. Caught those too. At first, it was just self-defense. I didn't even know what I was building, just that something smelled wrong and the stench was only getting worse. I never meant to burn the place down. But when I saw that sign, when I heard them laughing like I was the joke, I knew I wasn't going to be the quiet one anymore. Not this time. Not when the whole damn building was made of kindling. The laughter didn't stop when I sat down. If anything, it picked up, like watching me react was part of the show. I heard someone mutter, "She's gonna cry," like it was a bet. Someone else giggled and whispered, "Check Slack. Tyler posted it." Of course he did. Because why just humiliate someone in person when you can make it viral within company chat, right? I didn't touch the keyboard. Just stared at the monitor, like the word could burn itself into my retinas if I let it. The edges of the paper were curled like it had been handled, passed around, planned. Not some spur-of-the-moment prank. They thought about this. They coordinated. My stomach went hollow. Carter, still leaning back in his fancy ergonomic chair, the one I got denied for when I threw out my back last summer, chuckled like we were all in on the joke. "Come on, Jess, you gotta have thicker skin. People mess with each other all the time." Yeah, people mess with each other. But no one stuck gum under Carter's mouse. No one filled Tyler's cubicle with balloons. No one drew cartoon boobs on Michelle's calendar. I was the designated target, the acceptable punching bag. And why? Because I didn't drink with them at happy hour? Because I didn't laugh when they made jokes about DEI being a corporate scavenger hunt? Because I did my job too well? I didn't say a word, just shut the monitor off, reached under the desk, and pulled out the encrypted USB drive I'd kept taped under the keyboard tray for months. One drive, one password, one truth. I'd told myself I was building it just in case, like a security blanket for a paranoid analyst. But I wasn't paranoid. I was prepared. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't protecting anyone but them. My silence had kept things running, my reports ignored, my warnings buried, and my instincts gaslit. I opened my personal laptop. No one noticed. They were too busy whispering, watching. One even fake coughed "loser" into his fist like we were still in middle school. I tuned it out. Folder 1, expense fraud. Folder 2, retaliation cases. Folder 3, forged metrics. Folder 4, harassment reports resolved with blank PDFs. Folder 5, miscellaneous unethical shit. My personal favorite. There were over 180 files. Everyone time-stamped. Everyone backed up 3 ways. Everyone screaming a story no one wanted to hear. Until now. I opened a blank email to risk-escalations@halyardcorp.com. CC nobody. No drama, no flair. Just the subject line. Internal risk concern. Tier 2 escalation. I pasted the Dropbox link, added a 2-sentence summary, and hit save as draft. Not send yet. Because it had to be clean, professional, bulletproof, but mostly final. The need wasn't just about me anymore. This wasn't about a stupid sign. It wasn't even about Carter or Tyler or the rest of the man-children who thought compliance was a department full of humorless buzzkills. It was about drawing the line. I'd spent years quietly reinforcing that line, documenting, archiving, hoping someone would care. And for years, I'd been wrong. But now they were going to care, whether they wanted to or not. At 11:31 a.m., I read it over one last time. Not to second-guess myself, but to make sure every word was clean. No adjectives, no emotional appeals, no commentary. Just line items, timestamps, file references, and the encrypted Dropbox link. Subject: internal risk concern. Tier 2 escalation. Body. Attached. You will find a compiled set of risk documentation pertaining to Halyard Subdivision R5, covering the fiscal periods 2019-2024. Items of concern include, but are not limited to, falsified quarterly reporting, forged onboarding documentation, harassment and retaliation suppression, DEI data manipulation, expense reimbursement fraud, vendor bid interference, and misuse of whistleblower channels. Each item is supported with documentation, metadata logs, and cross-referenced annotations. Should you require further clarification, I am available. I will not be seeking internal resolution at the subsidiary level. Regards, Jessica L. Shaw, Compliance Analyst, R5 Region. I hovered over Send. There was no satisfaction in it. No adrenaline, just the click of inevitability, like closing a file drawer. Or locking a door. 11:34 a.m., time-stamped. Sent. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then powered down the laptop and slid it into my bag. Not because I expected anything to happen immediately, God knows corporate ethics doesn't move fast, but because after that email, everything would change. I wasn't sure how yet, but I'd triggered something. Carter was still in the break room, probably charming someone into covering his overdue compliance training. I walked past him without looking. Past Tyler, still glued to his phone like his little prank was going viral. I wondered how he'd react when half the footage in my files included him narrating HR-proof hazing with his face in full view. I didn't eat lunch, just walked outside, found a shady bench near the fountain, and sat, watching people hurry past like their inboxes were urgent and their calendars mattered. Mine didn't anymore, not in the same way. The thing about working in compliance is that you don't get to fix what's broken. Not really. You just document the slow decay until someone up top decides to care, or until someone like me pushes the button and forces them to. That's what I did. I didn't report it to HR, didn't escalate it to my manager's manager, or file some squeaky clean internal complaint that would get buried under team dynamics and informal resolution. No, I went straight to the root. The parent company, Halyard Corp, wasn't perfect, but they hated exposure, and they loved risk mitigation. And if they knew half of what I just handed them, they'd cut us off at the knees before it made headlines. Minutes passed. No reply, no ping, no read receipt, just the silence of corporate delay. But silence doesn't mean nothing's happening. Silence is what the ground sounds like before the quake. It started with a ripple, not a bang. Thursday morning, I logged in like usual, same chair, same stiff neck, same screensaver of my dog in a life vest, paddling with more purpose than half this department. But my inbox looked different. No urgent budget approval requests. No fun poll asking what theme we should decorate the bullpen with next. No Slack pings from Carter asking if I could take a quick look at someone else's overdue audit trail. Just silence. Then the first ripple. A new calendar invite popped up around 10:14 a.m., labeled Internal Systems Audit Phase 1, sent from ethics.review@halyardcorp.com. The invite was for our entire team. No notes, no explanation. Just a 90-minute block that cut straight into our usual Friday project sync. Within 10 minutes, another invite followed. Laptop Collection Protocol, Friday EOD. Voluntary, but strongly encouraged. Tyler stood up from his chair, glanced toward Carter's office, and then sat back down without a word. That was the second ripple. The third came when Megan from Accounts Payable, who hadn't made eye contact with me since 2021, walked over and asked if I wanted anything from the coffee bar. She even smiled. Like the slate had been wiped clean, like I hadn't caught her submitting a vendor invoice from her boyfriend's LLC 2 years ago and flagged it in a report that magically disappeared. I smiled back. I'm good, thanks. Slack got quiet, like ghost town quiet. Normally the side channels were full of GIFs, memes, and a constant stream of inside jokes that always seemed to hinge on who was safe to mock. Today, nothing but a pinned message from Carter saying, "Let's stay focused and professional today, folks. Heads down." Like that was going to stop what was already in motion. Around noon, someone from HR, Rachel I think, walked by with a box of IT asset tags. She didn't speak to anyone, just nodded and started sticking labels on laptops like she was marking cattle for slaughter. She skipped mine. Of course she did. And me? I didn't flinch. Just opened a spreadsheet, stared at it, scrolled a little, made it look like I was still doing the job they'd ignored me for. Because if there's one thing I know, it's how to play ghost. By 2 p.m., my word had spread that 2 of the directors were out sick, which was odd, considering both were supposed to be presenting on that week's numbers to Halyard leadership via Zoom. No show, no update, just a placeholder slide, and Carter trying to stall like the walls weren't closing in. The air in the office changed. You could feel it, thick with a kind of collective regret that no one wanted to say out loud. The same people who used to laugh when I entered a room now avoided my eyes. They weren't sure what I'd done, but they knew it had started here, with me. I didn't bask in it, didn't smirk, didn't raise a single eyebrow. I just ate my sandwich at my desk like usual. Except this time, I wasn't alone. 3 people hovered by the break room. A few others just happened to grab lunch at the same time I did. Carter made some pathetic joke about corporate drills and security theater, but his laugh fell flat. Nobody laughed with him. They were looking at me differently now, not with mockery, with calculation. They were trying to figure out what I knew, what I'd said, whether they were in the blast radius. I sipped my coffee, scrolled my screen, acted like nothing had changed, because I wanted them to wonder. I was in the middle of updating a risk tracker no one had asked for when my name flashed in bold on Slack. Jessica, can you please step into Conf Room 2C? No emoji, no thanks. Just plain text. Clean. Corporate. The hallway was quiet. Even the usual mechanical hum of the vending machine sounded distant. As I passed Carter's office, he looked up like he wanted to say something, but didn't. Just kind of hovered in his chair like a man watching his own funeral from the 3rd row. I opened the conference room door to find 2 people already seated. One was a woman in her 50s with that HR-neutral look, calm, polite, terrifying. Crisp gray blazer, no jewelry, not even a watch. The other was a man with a Halyard security badge clipped to his collar and a closed laptop in front of him like a priest guarding a confession booth. The woman spoke first. Jessica Shaw? I nodded once. Thank you for joining us. My name is Elaine Cheng, Executive Risk Counsel for Halyard Corp. This is Marcus Brenner from our Internal Systems Integrity Division. No introductions for me, no handshake, just roles, purpose, clock ticking. Elaine folded her hands. Are you willing to speak openly? No preamble, no small talk, just the question I'd been waiting for. I met her eyes. Yes. She leaned back slightly, the way someone does when they've just confirmed the theory they didn't want to be true. Marcus didn't type anything. He didn't need to. I knew what was in that laptop. I'd built the case myself. Your report, she said, was comprehensive. We had partial data before, anomalies, inconsistencies, a few flagged incidents, but nothing that could hold up to internal challenge. Your documentation filled the gaps. You were the missing piece. I didn't smile. I didn't nod like I was proud. I just said, there's more. Elaine didn't blink. More? Additional logs, I said. Hard copies and encrypted backups. Items I couldn't upload through unsecured channels. Vendor-side whistleblowing that never got filed. A deleted chain from Carter's inbox referencing suppression tactics. Marcus opened his laptop. Do you have those on you? I slid the small drive across the table. They didn't ask how I'd gathered it, or why. They didn't need to. They knew what kind of person I was. Detail-oriented, methodical, invisible, until I didn't want to be. Elaine glanced at Marcus, then back to me. We've been watching this region for a while, she said, voice quiet but pointed. We suspected, but we couldn't act without confirmation. Your email was the trigger. Your logs, the match. For a moment, the room felt still, not heavy, just inevitable. I sat back, folded my hands, mirrored her posture. What happens next? Elaine exchanged a glance with Marcus. Interviews, reviews, suspensions, possibly terminations, depending on cooperation. We're freezing financial authority across departments starting this afternoon. Payroll audits begin Monday. I said nothing, just waited. Marcus finally looked up from the laptop. We may want to speak with you again, privately. You'll be looped into a limited access channel shortly. Elaine added, You won't be asked to testify unless you choose to, but your role going forward may evolve. I nodded once. They didn't offer promises. No, you're a hero. No, we'll make this right. Just acknowledgement. And for the first time in years, that was enough. As I stood to leave, Elaine said, Thank you. We've been waiting for someone like you. I paused, hand on the door. You weren't waiting, I said without turning. You were hoping someone would crack first. And now I had. They lit the fuse. I handed them the fuel. Friday morning smelled different, like nervous sweat and forced cheer, the kind of tension that creeps into your lungs and sits there, right behind your sternum, heavy and stale. People were trying to act normal, keyboards clacking, phones ringing, Carter pacing his glass-walled office like a motivational speaker, waiting for a cue he missed. But everyone was performing. It wasn't a workplace anymore. It was a stage after the bomb has already gone off, and the actors are still pretending the set's intact. I got in at my usual time, sat down, booted up. No more loser signs, no more slack jokes, just wide berth and shallow greetings. Tyler was the first to hover. He did this little sidestep like he'd just happened to end up near my desk, then leaned on the partition and tapped it twice with his knuckles like he was trying to summon the courage. Hey, Jess, he said, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. You want anything from the cafe? My treat. I looked at him, just looked. He blinked, face cracking slightly. Or not. Totally fine. Just thought maybe you'd want to, chat or whatever. Things have been a little weird. That last word landed like a bad joke. Weird. Sure. Mass audits, laptop collections, 2 directors missing, and HR walking around like they're casing a crime scene. But weird works too. No thanks, I said flatly. I'm good. He nodded too fast. Cool. Let me know if, you ever want to decompress. Next came Marcy, who hadn't said more than 10 words to me in 6 years, unless it was about a misplaced invoice. She suddenly remembered I existed. Hey, Jessica, I just wanted to say, I know people joke around here a lot, but if any of it ever made you feel uncomfortable. It didn't make me feel, I cut in. It showed me who you all are. She flushed, walked off. By tentai, Carter himself made his move. He stepped out of his office like a politician visiting a disaster zone, coffee in one hand, fake concern in the other. "Jess, got a minute?" I didn't answer. He sat on the edge of my desk anyway, like we were teammates reviewing game tape. "Look, I know the culture here can be a little immature, and maybe sometimes we get carried away, but we're all human, right?" I didn't look at him, just kept scrolling through my emails. "I mean, I don't think anyone meant anything by it," he added, a little more insistent now. "We all have fun, but if something's going too far, maybe we can stop it together. It's not too late, right?" That's when I looked up, and I saw it. Panic, wrapped in charm, desperation dressed as diplomacy. "It's not me you need to stop," I said calmly, "but you already knew that." He opened his mouth, closed it, walked away. By lunchtime, the break room was empty. People were suddenly working through or grabbing a quick bite off-site. The few who lingered near my desk acted like they might catch something if they stood too close. I didn't care. I ate my sandwich in peace. No one stole my yogurt from the fridge. No one unplugged my mouse. No one forwarded fake emails from my account to the team alias. Instead, I watched Carter stay late in his office with his phone pressed to his ear, pacing. He didn't make eye contact once. The shift wasn't loud, but it was absolute. They didn't know the full extent yet. They didn't know what Halyard's investigators were still uncovering, but they knew the current had turned, and I wasn't the one drowning anymore. The conference call was scheduled for 3 p.m., but you could feel it in the air by noon. No one said it outright, but everyone knew what it was. Not a sync, not a check-in, not one of Carter's usual quick huddles to realign priorities. This had a title: Compliance Action Review, R5 Leadership, sent directly from Halyard Legal with a red priority flag and a mandatory attendance clause. I sat 3 rows back in the small shared conference room we rarely used. Normally, these meetings were peppered with eye rolls and muted mics and "can this be an email?" energy. Not this time. The room was still, the kind of still that comes before a verdict. The screen lit up with the Halyard Legal logo. 4 faces popped on the screen. The lead speaker, a woman named Amanda Vale, introduced herself with no soft edges. General Counsel, Internal Ethics Division. No smiles, no warm-up, just, "Thank you for joining. I'll be brief." And she was. Within 3 minutes, she'd listed 5 key violations currently under review, all specific to R5: fabricated expense entries, intentional DEI misreporting for federal grant eligibility, vendor favoritism and inflated bid approvals, suppression of harassment claims, retaliation against compliance whistleblowers. Every person in that room had gone pale by the 3rd bullet. Amanda didn't stop. Effective immediately, a hold is being placed on all performance-related bonus disbursements for R5 until further notice. This is not a punishment. It is a containment measure. Carter shifted in his seat like his cushion had turned to fire. Tyler looked like he was trying not to pass out. A few others typed quietly, probably slacking each other messages like, "What the hell is happening, and do they know it was us?" They knew. Amanda finished the call with a simple instruction. "If you have relevant documentation or context to share, reach out before end of week. Cooperation is being tracked." Then she paused. "Jessica Shaw, please stay on the call." The rest of the team started closing laptops, unplugging headsets. No one said a word. No sarcastic jabs. No fake optimism. Just a silent march out the door. When it was just me and the Halyard faces, Amanda unmuted again. This time, her voice was slightly softer, but no less sharp. "We appreciate your initiative and the structure of your reporting. The integrity of your documentation helped us verify weeks of internal irregularities. You were precise. Deliberate." I nodded. I didn't say thank you. I wasn't doing this for thanks. "We'd like to discuss the possibility of you joining the Corporate Risk Division. It's early, but we believe your instincts, and frankly, your patience, are an asset." I stayed quiet for a moment, then said, "Would I still be working on R5? Amanda offered the faintest smile. "No, you'd be working on the people who made R5 possible." It wasn't just retaliation they were chasing. It was deeper. It was structural fraud, top-down rot disguised as startup culture and creative process. And now, finally, someone had pulled the tarp back. I said, "I'm open to that conversation." Amanda nodded. "We'll be in touch by Monday." The screen went black. I sat there for a long minute, just breathing. The room was empty, the company wasn't saved, but it was awake. I came in early that Monday, not because I had to, but because I wanted to leave on my terms. The fluorescent lights flickered above my desk like always, and the carpet still smelled faintly of burnt coffee and Red Bull, but something fundamental had shifted. This wasn't my space anymore. It never really had been. My box was small. Just a few things. The stress ball I never used, the compliance handbook they never read, and my dog photo, that ridiculous shot of her in the bright orange life vest, paddling toward shore like she had a quarterly report to file. I took my time. No one interrupted. It was almost 11 when I noticed them. 3 of my co-workers lingering awkwardly near the break room, pretending to refill water bottles and shuffle papers. Their voices were low. Their glances weren't hostile anymore. They were cautious, like they'd all just woken up from the same bad dream and weren't sure if I was still in it. One of the junior staff, Hannah maybe? I'd trained her on incident logging 2 years ago, back when she still smiled without checking who was around first. Finally walked up. She didn't say much, just held a coffee cup in both hands like a peace offering. "We didn't know," she said, voice quiet. "I'm sorry." I looked at her for a moment, not with anger, not even pity, just understanding. The kind that comes from being on opposite ends of the same silence for too long. "I know," I said. "You weren't supposed to." She nodded, then walked away. Carter didn't show up that day. Rumor was he'd taken personal leave after a weekend emergency meeting with Halyard Legal. I hadn't seen Tyler since Friday. His Slack profile was still active, but his desk was cleared before lunch. No goodbyes, no parting jokes, just absence. I opened my bottom drawer and pulled out the last thing. The paper. Loser. Thick red marker, curled at the corners, still faintly creased from where I'd folded it the first time. I stared at it, just long enough to let the memory resurface. How it felt to walk in that day, to hear them laugh, to be the only one who wasn't in on the joke. Then I folded it once more, cleaner this time. Deliberate. I slipped it into my bag and zipped it shut. Not out of bitterness, out of accuracy, because now it was evidence, a relic, proof of what this place had been and what I'd refused to stay silent about. A few people gathered near my desk as I stood up. No applause, no farewell card, just quiet nods and uneasy glances, like they all wanted to say something but weren't sure which version of me they were speaking to, the ghost they laughed at, or the one who turned the lights on. I didn't wait for a speech, didn't need one. I walked out carrying the box with one arm and the weight of nothing else. No grudges, no gloating, just peace. They say revenge is best served cold. But this wasn't revenge, it was clarity. The elevator doors opened with a quiet hiss, revealing a hallway bathed in morning light. Everything was clean. Too clean, almost sterile, but not in a bad way. Headquarters had that clinical polish that only places with real oversight could afford. Real budgets, real accountability, real consequences. The badge, clipped to my blazer, felt strange, heavier somehow, not because of its weight, but because of what it represented. My name etched below the title, Senior Risk Auditor, Corporate Compliance Division. I'd reread it 3 times on the flight out, not because I didn't believe it, but because it still felt like a story someone else should be telling. My new office was on the 17th floor. Minimalist. Glass walls. A muted charcoal desk that probably cost more than my entire cubicle back at R5. There were no Nerf darts lodged in the ceiling tiles. No fake Employee of the Month plaques mocking me. No off-color jokes scribbled on the whiteboard. Just peace and focus. On the desk was a sealed envelope with my name on it. I opened it slowly. "Welcome aboard, Jessica. The silence you broke helped more than just one region. Let's keep going. AV Amanda Vale, General Counsel." I sat down and tapped the space bar. The screen lit up with a soft blue glow. 3 folders waited for me, each titled with a different Halyard subsidiary code. All marked Priority, Whistleblower Intake Review, one from a Midwest logistics branch, one from a Latin America import channel, one from an internal tech contractor flagged for retaliation patterns eerily familiar. Same stories, different masks. I smiled once. Not a grin, not smug, just quiet. knowing satisfaction. They'd tried to make me a joke, a target, a cautionary tale. Instead, I became the warning, and now I had the keys to the system they once weaponized. I opened the first folder and began reading. Clean format, numbered logs, standard protocol. Exactly how I'd trained myself to see the world. One risk at a time, one lie at a time, one silence broken after another. I wasn't the loser. I was the audit.